Hello everybody, it's me, GhostCritic. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday for a comic book review video. I've got 11 books to get through this week, so I'm going to speed things along a little bit, but if you like what you see, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and you'll get a shout out on Wednesday, and lots of comments. I love reading all your comments down below, so please interact and I'll reply as soon as I can. Now, as always, we're starting off from the least liked to the most liked, and there will be spoilers. I'll be talking storylines and cliffhangers and the like, and reveals and revelations. So let's kick off with the one I least liked, and basically because it's a tie-in and I don't know what the hell's going on, it's The Flash, issue number 33, part of the Batman extravaganza that is Metal. And if you've not read any of the Metal storyline, much like I haven't, then you're gonna kind of be a bit lost. You kind of get the idea of what is going on. There's lots of different versions of Batman, but they're all bad, and the Justice League have to go up against them and try and beat them. But these are all evil Batmen that have kind of, I guess from what I read from this, got their heads together and made sure that the Justice League won't win. Which of course they're going to, because it's comic books and that's what happens. And it just kind of reminds me of that Justice League storyline from decades ago, I'm guessing, where Batman had these contingencies in place in case that any of the Justice League went rogue and became bad and he could take them down. But the old Scott Snyder has kind of amped up, gone a bit over the top with all this, and it's just not very interesting to me. And that's basically The Flash. I can't wait for them to go back to regular storyline telling, because this is doing nothing for me. This week we said goodbye to Becky Cloonan on The Punisher with issue 17 as she wrapped up her run on this book, and I for one am very glad to see this finish. It's been choppy to say the least. I don't think Becky really got to grips with the character and who he is, and just didn't do a very good job, but I stuck it out for the whole 17 issues. This sees Frank going into the theatre where this big kind of opening night of something or other is there to try and save all the hostages, and it's just kind of over the top violence, but just didn't feel right to me. It was just The Punisher done wrong. We're going to see how good it can be later on in this video, but for now I can't wait for the next creative team that's going to come on with the next issue, which let's just quickly check what number it is, because it's the whole Marvel legacy and they're going back to the original numbering as if there's never been a number one. So yes, that's it. Issue 218 of The Punisher is what we've got to look forward to next month, and yes, I'm very much looking forward to hopefully a better take on The Punisher. Moving along with Wonder Woman issue 33, and for a comic book that is Wonder Woman doesn't appear, not really, in this, as we kind of focus very much on the growth of Darkseid and his daughter Grail, and how their relationship is, and how she's going around killing all the kind of old Greek gods, collecting their power and giving it to Darkseid so he can grow into the fully fledged being that he originally was. Again, this is one of those storylines where you have to have read what else is going on in the DC universe regarding the whole Darkseid turning into a child again. I think it's slightly mixed in with Metal storyline. Again, I'm not reading that, so it makes it very difficult for a reader such as myself to actually enjoy this book. It kind of wraps up it's kind of almost a flashback to all the people that Grail has been killing up to now, where we have Wonder Woman's brother, who was revealed at the end of last issue, and he's going to have some sort of trial with his fellow fisherman, by the looks of it, to see if he's worthy, if he's got the power that Grail can then take and give to Darkseid to make him grow even more. It's one of those titles that it's almost on the edge of being dropped now. It's getting to the end of the year. We're in the first week of November. October. It's first week of November next week for comic books, and I don't know, it might be cold in the new year. I've got to start thinking about my comic books and what I'm really enjoying and what I want to keep reading. At the moment, Wonder Woman isn't one of those books, unfortunately. We said goodbye to Dan Slott and the Old Red Silver Surfer issue 14, and I expected to get a little bit emotional with all this, but really it just felt a bit of a damp squid, really. I just wasn't feeling it. Like I said, I expect to get very emotional. This is basically the death of Dawn Greenwood, who the Silver Surfer, Norrin Radd, has been very much in love with and has taken on all these crazy psychedelic adventures. But there just wasn't anything that I felt attached to. Maybe it was because of the whole silliness of this arc, that the apparent big deal of what happens to Dawn in this book kind of loses its weight on it. So you kind of found out little bits that were quite clever. This mysterious figure that's been watching all the time, we find out is actually the Silver Surfer, who, and this is where it all gets kind of a little bit complicated, but when they were on the journey through time with Galactus as his birth, Dawn was trapped inside, encased with Galactus, so Silver Surfer kind of carried along with them, but now had to remain secret while everything was going on and time was going as it was. And he kind of puts on this new persona. Why people don't realise who he is, I'm not quite sure, but it's one of those kind of why doesn't anyone recognise Superman is actually Clark Kent type of deals. You just kind of have to go with it. But no, there was no emotional weight to this. So having this as the last issue didn't bother me in the slightest. I've said in previous videos, especially the last one, I would like someone else now to take on the Silver Surfer, go back to a little bit more of the serious sci-fi adventuring that I've read in previous volumes, and not so much of the kooky silly fun, which is as entertaining as it is, can get a little bit boring after a while. We've had this for I think about 3 volumes now with Dan Slott and the All Reds on this. It's time for a fresh creative team and hopefully some brand new adventures for our Norrin Radd the Silver Surfer. Moving on to DC, we've got issue number 10 of 12 from the Commandy Challenge. Greg Pak writing this, and it's all just gone back to being a little bit of a mess where nothing really seems to particularly linked to the last issue, bar trying to resolve whatever cliffhanger the last writer and artist put forward. And I just think this whole series has been either a misstep or not very well conceived. It's, as I think a lot of us have said, this will be a terrible read in trade. I'm telling you now, it won't help that will be all bound in one volume. But the stories as individual kind of almost one-shots, you can pick and choose, and there are some good ones in there, but linking them all up has been very difficult. We have had from the very start Kamandi on the lookout for and trying to find his family, and we've had little kind of bits in there that where his mother is, and we get to meet her here. As the end of last issue, we had the Great Eastman Tom King issue, and we had him like captured in this cave while all the creatures within it were being taken away one by one, and finally Kamandi is there, and we find out what that is here, which is it's almost like a menagerie museum of the mutated animals, and there is someone behind this called the Commander. Who is the Commander? Well, spoilers, it's his mother. And there is almost this tearful, exciting reunion between the two, but when he finds out his mother is the one that's been dealing all this death along the way, he isn't particularly happy, but he doesn't really have a lot of time to worry about that, because what happens, well, she dies. She gets shot by the kind of rebel group that managed to get Kamandi into this kind of control centre. But again, there's just a lot going on, and not enough is fleshed out along the way. It's just snapshots of really good ideas, but they're not progressed and fleshed out enough. And that is down to the fact that the creators only get an issue to tell their story. There's this great kind of group of sharks that that save Kamandi from these robots that are after him, and they look really great and they look really cool, but you barely get to see them until we're off onto the next lot of kind of mutated anthropomorphic creatures. So it's a bit of a muddle, it's a bit of a mess. It's Kamandi Challenge. We go on to Daredevil issue 28, and this is the final part of the three-part story of Land of the Blind, where Daredevil is being tortured by this kind of soul demon who can resurrect, kill, resurrect ad nauseum, and is doing so to Daredevil. And this is for the sake of Blind Spot, who basically traded Daredevil's life for, I guess, his mother's life, and also to get his sight back. But of course he has a turn of consciousness as he's kind of running away with his mother and goes back to save Daredevil, and everything's great and hunky-dory. It's nicely wrapped up and tied up, just in time for the big reveal at the end, where we've had throughout this three-issue story arc Foggy trying to get in touch with Daredevil while he's been adventuring over in Japan or China, wherever they are, and he's basically been trying to tell Daredevil, Matt Murdock, that Wilson Fisk is now the mayor of New York. And that's the big next storyline that we're going to get from Charles Soule, and hopefully Ron Garney did some great artwork in this particular issue with colours by Mila as well. Some great kind of big two-page spreads that really look nice. I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but I really like seeing the red costume back. For a while we had that kind of dark black and dark red colouring, but now we're back to the kind of horned red cowl and costume, which, you know, just fills me with delight. Again, this is another of the Marvel comics that are going to go back to their legacy numbering. So next month it's issue 595. I'm sure this is going to confuse a lot of people, but we'll see how much longer that lasts until Marvel want to have a few new number ones to grab people and make everyone think this is very special big event. But I doubt it until they get to issue 600 where they can have a big thick anniversary issue. Moving on to some fun X-Men stuff. Despite the fact that this is kind of tie-in with the rest of the Marvel X universe, I'm guessing, I really had a good time with this issue. It's all part of the kind of Mojo Worldwide, where Mojo has taken like these areas of our Earth and made them into his kind of battlegrounds, which he televises. It's very clever of Colin Bunn, because he's kind of mocking and parodying the kind of reality TV shows, the social media aspect of our world, where we want to see people getting hurt, we want to share these around with our friends, and he uses it very cleverly here, and I like that little touch from him. I'm guessing I missed some bits out because of this is part 4 and I've only read part 2, but there's been some X-Men that have apparently died, but obviously we know they haven't, and by the end of this issue we know that they aren't, and they've just been put in these kind of status pods, and this band of X-Men with Long Shot involved free them, which is great stuff, and there's just lots of action, lots of X-Men fighting their continual fight against all their kind of iconic enemies, and sometimes Mojo has kind of amalgamated both, I think there was some Brood and what's the robot-y techno things, I can't remember now, the Flanks. They kind of merged those two together to make a brand new kind of enemy for them to go up against, so it seems like the odds are completely against them. Long Shot kind of helps them to escape, but they land in probably the worst place that they should be, and that's the real Mojo world, which clearly Long Shot has been trying to escape from for decades. This has always been Long Shot's deal, you know, his nemesis has always been Mojo, but I'm really looking forward. Hopefully I'll get the next part in this book, who knows, or we might just go off, I'll never see Mojo Worldwide again, I won't know how it ends, and we'll be on to a new story. We'll see, but really enjoyed this. Now, we were talking about Punisher earlier on and how it shouldn't be done. Well, Garth Ennis and Parlov and Belair are showing how it should be done. And if you like Punisher, the war stories, and how he became kind of Frank Castle, the Punisher, then this is one of the books that you should be reading, because it's so well done. Goran Parlov's artwork on this is fantastic, and throwing in Geordie Belair with colouring just makes all the pages pop and make them look really exciting. But this is very much focused on kind of the Americans versus the Vietnamese in the Vietnam War, and both their sides' take on it, and very much about, you know, the being, you know, the American way, but, you know, fighting for freedom and liberty and all that kind of stuff, but seeing it from the other side as well, and they're just fighting as much for their freedom as well. But great stuff. Really, I don't know how authentic it is, but it feels right, and nothing feels kind of out of place or awkward. This is down in the trenches. This is a violent. It's a Max series, so they can get away with a lot of blood and guts and all that. But this is a band of soldiers with Frank Castle leading them, trying to stay alive, moving their territory forward and forward for the American way. But great stuff. Love this little mini series that's going on. This is how the Punisher, Frank Castle, should be done. Right, let's move on to Saga, issue number 48. Now, I'm not quite sure if I'd maybe put this up a little bit higher than necessary, mostly because now I've got this here, I'm wondering what actually happened. I know I enjoyed it. This is very much about the son of the kind of TV head guy with our little seal, and they've kind of been left behind by Alana and Marco while they went off to Abortion Town, and they're having their little adventure there, and they've kind of left them behind, but without any means of surviving. So we see them after however long they've been stranded on this particular planet. We have the two reporters. One of them is not looking so good, and they're basically running out of food, and they're looking at this little seal's walrus thinking, looking fine and meaty, we might have to kill you very soon. So it's up to these two guys to go in the woods, because apparently there's this big monster in there. But things don't really go to plan. It just shows that as much as the bravado that these two guys have, they haven't got that killing instinct. That it's kind of strange for our robot son, because his father is so ruthless and not bloodthirsty, but he'll do whatever he needs to do to survive. And then it's kind of strange, because after they have this little adventure that really doesn't go anywhere, we flick back to the original encampment, and suddenly Alana and Marco and everyone's back again, when we haven't really got the end of the last storyline with them and how that all went. So Fiona Staples and Brian K. Vaughan are kind of flitting about between timelines now, which is a little bit confusing. I don't know how long we're going to have to wait for the next storyline, because it's going on quite a hefty hiatus. I think it's at about 3 or 4 months while they catch up with the next storyline, which I think is kind of almost going to harm this, or they're going to hope that we've forgotten that all this stuff was going on like 3 or 4 months ago, and then can just run off and tell the next storyline. I hope that's not the case, and I don't think it will be, but it certainly breaks a lot of the current storylines that are going on. We'll see. Penultimate issue of the week, missing out on the top spot, but still a fantastic book. As always, Deadly Class issue 28 from Remender, Craig and Boyd. Just another fantastic, tense, culminating in complete violence, we know it's coming, story, as we have all the different kind of groups all coming together now, and our kind of old school Deadly Class team with the new breed come together and have a party. Remender picks up on why they've had to go out on this kind of road trip and get away from the school for a while to kind of let things die down, which is both hilarious and a little bit sad for one of our team members, as we find out that I can't remember her name, but it's the tall black kind of Amazonian woman who has been writing all these letters home to her parents, but we find out that both her parents are actually dead and these letters have never been sent. And we get all these connections, the relationships between all of our kind of students, but in the background, closing in on them, is everyone who wants to see particular members of this team dead. And obviously Remender is building this up to a big throwdown, as teams from all over the place are about to total carnage, I'm sure, with next issue. But so good, so fun, so exciting. Great characterizations from Remender. I'm thrilled to read this every week in, week out, month in, month out even. Just a great job, and I hope Remender continues with this book for a long time. Now we get to the pick of the week, and such a fantastic book. So happy that I picked this up and I took my comic book guy's advice. It is Valiant's Exo Man of War, issue number 8, and I think it's the final part of this Emperor storyline. And what I loved about this issue so much is that Matt Kindt was able to balance so well the action, like the high moments, with the very soft, emotional, quiet moments, and for it not to feel kind of jerky or kind of pulling you out of anything at any given time, as we see them finally going up against the Emperor, and the kind of moment before the big kind of fight onwards, we see why these kind of small band that have kind of come together, why they are doing what they're doing, their kind of histories, and what they hope for the future. And beautifully drawn and coloured by Clayton Crane, with Renato Guedes on here as well, which every mood you've got is presented so well on the page. You know, in there you've got betrayal from one of the team. You've got the idea that, yes, well, for those of you who read it, again, spoilers, our man Arik takes down the Emperor, and he basically becomes the Emperor, and now he has the responsibility of bringing all these kind of tribes and races that have basically been at each other's throats for so long, cleverly manipulated by the Emperor, certainly. He's now got the responsibility of basically keeping the peace and ensuring that all these people can live in unity and bring a better future for them all. And as is expressed very well by a lot of the characters, you know, this battle, this war may have ended, but there's another one ahead of you now, and now you're the Emperor, people are going to be after you. So I've seen this, yes, I've seen this in Conan, and I've kind of told you that this is very much Conan in space. It's kind of the sci-fi side of it, but it's just done so well by Matt Kindt, and I love this book. It's beautiful to look at, it's enthralling, intriguing to read, and I'm guessing this is a kind of maxi series. The next series I'm kind of guessing is going to be the last one, so we've probably got about another 3 or 4 issues of this to go until it's ended, but I will be there every single step and issue of the way. Try out Exo Man of War. I'm sure we've got trade already come out. If not, go hunt out these. I'm sure they'll be about for you to delve in and just enjoy the heck out of. That's it for me this week. Thank you for watching. They were my thoughts and opinions on the books I picked up. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of the books, and maybe tell me a few things about books that I haven't been reading that you've been really enjoying. Until next time, thank you all for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.